Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening. Ladies and gentlemen, Weather Brains episode 974. Show 974 is on the air, waiting on the little light to come on to confirm that we're live on YouTube. That little light has been taking a little longer the past couple of weeks, so I might be talking to myself right now. But in a mere moment, if not now, we will be live on YouTube. And this part is not recorded for the audio podcast version. This is a YouTube exclusive. Now we're on the air. WeatherBrains 974 for the 16th of September, 2024. It's the pre-show, magical time of the program where we do three things. Occasionally, we share boring personal stories, humorous anecdotes, and from time to time we say really, really outrageous things. All right, September 16th. September means the climatological peak of the hurricane season, and it means the National Weather Association annual meeting. So, for a pretty good chunk of the show tonight, we're going to be going live to Dallas, Fort Worth, North Texas. NWA kicked off yesterday with a broadcasters workshop. Did my best to follow along with the various hashtags because there's always some good stuff that goes on at these things. And I hate to miss it. I've missed the last several, and that we're a little short-staffed here. When you're short-staffed, it makes it hard to get away. And but next year I will commit. I will commit to being there. The NWA annual meeting, because it is in Huntsville, Alabama, just up the road. So I don't have the dates yet, but I will make a firm commitment to be there unless we have a hurricane. And on this date, September 16th, the very famous tornado anniversary day for us down here on the central Gulf Coast, we had on this date 4 years ago, we had Hurricane Sally, which was a Category 2 at the time of landfall, but the storm surge was very significant, and it just did not want to move. It sat there for hours and hours and hours. And then on this date, 20 years ago today, on 04, we had Hurricane Ivan, a very destructive upper end Category 3 that came into the Alabama Gulf Coast, and it tore this place up. So we're very thankful that we do not have any issues down here. We do on the Atlantic coast, and got a note from Neil Jacobs saying that he can't be on the show tonight. He's probably surfing right now, somewhere off the coast of the Carolinas. He's hanging 10. Catch a wave, man. We had a non-tropical low that came in this evening, and it's been producing just buckets and buckets of rain in North Carolina. And Neil, knowing him, he's going to do something, some daredevil situation with that. We'll find out next week what he's up to here. You never know, Bill. And Bill, I can't hear a word you're saying. So is it you or me? Is the question mark. It might be you, or it might be me. Goodness, I've been getting spam texts and phone calls at an alarming rate today. I mean, goodness, I don't know what I've done, but man, of course, the greatest thing on these phones, it's the silence unknown caller option. But I've probably had at least 2 dozen of these spam calls today, and the texts are rolling in. And some of it's political junk, but some of it's just spam, and I don't know where they're getting my number. Somebody's a mole here.
Well, I had an
But anyway,
interesting thing. Can you hear me now, James?
yes.
I'm coming off the camera. I don't know why my AirPods are not working. Um, I'm gonna switch back over there one more time and just see because it will probably be better if I'm on the AirPods. So let me try that one more
Okay.
time. Now, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes. and I know
I had an
exactly.
interesting thing happen on one of my email accounts last week or 2 weeks ago. Somebody dropped me into some sort of sign up bot where they sign you up literally to hundreds of newsletters an hour.
Oh,
And
wow.
within 3 hours, I had gotten 3,500 newsletters.
Oh gosh.
And so
Wow.
I called Trey and he said, well, there's these, services that, do this to generate, signups for newsletters. And you just got caught up in it. Well, I couldn't afford to lose that email address. So, I had to, basically send everything to spam for 3 days and literally go through and unsubscribe to all 3,500 of these newsletters. Somehow the fire hose
Like
got turned off. They were all legitimate
you had to
things,
do.
like Fox 6 and Indianapolis and, legitimate newsletters. And if they're following the rules, they have to have a safe unsubscribe. And now now I'm only getting a few a day. But it was a lot of work. And
So you had to do it like manually for each list that you
manually,
were
it was
Oh,
either
gee.
abandon the email address. And so I had to go in and whitelist all the, legitimate senders, but you never can whitelist everybody. There's always two or three a day that come in that I didn't think of. So I'm still sending everything to spam right now, but, and having to go over there and fish it out. But that was really frightening.
Sometimes I will venture into the spam folder, and it's horrifying the things that are over there. It's just like totally horrifying. I mean,
Well, fortunately, there was nothing
some of it's
horrifying. It was
nasty.
all of it was legitimate products. They were, I mean, legitimately like so and so's backpacks and so. I mean, famous companies. And, I notified as many of them as I could that this was, a spam attack. And I got a few nice notes back. But, some companies do not have double opt in, which should be a law if it's not already. So I got one from a puzzle company in Vermont. And so I looked and there's no unsubscribe at all on their newsletter. And so I actually emailed the person on there and they were very, very nice. And I'm like, you really need to, you know, get with the letter of the law here and, do this correctly. And they were real sweet
Now,
about it.
now, did you get a sign up for Brian's Booby Bungalow?
No, there was none of that,
No.
fortunately.
See, we're
So
trying
no
we're trying to get
trash.
Brian. See, we're trying to get Brian Peters to buy the booby trap, and that we're gonna rebrand. It's for sale. That's the big story. Is for sale, and
Well,
we
it's
think
bad
Brian
because I
Peters.
told this to Jen the other day and she already knew. How did you know that?
I knew because I follow James Spann. That's how I
Oh,
knew. I
Yeah.
Span
saw.
already knew?
See,
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
and I think that Brian. Of course, everybody told me the minute it went on the market. I think Brian Peters is the perfect candidate. Brian is retired. He's getting those big government, retirement checks every month from the Weather Service, and
Big
he could
pension. Yeah.
buy that. We're going to rebrand it from Wesley's Booby Trap to Brian's Booby Bungalow. And we're trying to buy the Volcano Club and the Quest Club in downtown Birmingham. He can have 3 locations, and
Well, the
and,
Quest
and, and
Club's
you know we could
closed.
start a newsletter, and we could sign Bill up for the newsletter. So
That's
he could
right.
have another newsletter.
Let's don't do that. And the city council just closed the Quest Club, so let's don't have that.
Well, no, that's
That's
the whole
funny.
point. So you could buy it. I mean, it's a fire sale. So you buy the Volcano Club, the Quest Club, and Wesley's, and
Well, Brian wouldn't call it Brian's Booby Bungalow. He would call it Brian's Burger Bungalow or something nice like that.
no, he wouldn't. Brian's in it for the money. He's in it for developing customers, cash flow, and profits. So
Oh man.
there's enough burger
Are
joints
you
in the
are you
world.
saying you saying boobies are more popular or more profitable than burgers, James Spann.
Oh boy, that's a show title that we can never use. And what's disturbing? We just hit television. I mean, literally, when Bill said that,
Great.
we are at
Oh,
the top of
no.
we're at the top of the hour, so we would like to welcome our television viewers.
Don't
That's
go.
Bill Murray at billmurray.com is the email address for the haters that didn't like that. So let me get the recorders going here because we got to go live to Texas, Tejas. All right, here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to WeatherBrains. They're kind of a big deal.
Big deal. Big deal. Bill Curtis says we're a big deal. Maybe, maybe not. Hey, this is WeatherBrains, episode 974 for the 16th of September, 2024. For those of us down here in the Deep South, this date brings back hurricane memories of Sally 4 years ago, Ivan 20 years ago. Huge hurricane anniversary date, but we are thankful we have no hurricanes where we are. A little hybrid low coming into the coast of the Carolinas, and that's where Dr. Neil is tonight. We think he is hanging 10. He's out there surfing the waves, catching the big one off the coast of the Carolinas. But we've got Jen and Bill Murray that we did not get to go to the NWA. Jen,
No,
do you
we
feel
did not.
left out?
So
I do.
disappointed.
I do feel left out because I've never been to one ever. So I got to get to one. This is silly.
Keep talking.
Well, next year is coming to Huntsville, Alabama. You need to come next year.
Yay! Okay,
All right.
I'll work on that.
So Bill Murray, you're going to be in Huntsville, Alabama next year for the NWA?
Absolutely. I'm just sad I missed this one.
All right. Well, let's just pitch it out to our team.
I don't think they can
Our
hear
course-
you, James. I think they
Oh,
can't
okay.
hear you.
There it is.
Yeah, so you may have
We got you loud
may
and
have
clear.
to string it along here for a second till
Boy, they have
Jameson
some
gets
professional
settled.
professional
Right.
audio gear out there.
Yeah.
I'm very
Wow.
jealous of their rig there.
Miss awesome.
Well, let's
Looks like
let's
that thing
pitch it
you
out to them.
coded to one of our meetings, James. Where was that you brought your big soundboard? Was that?
I can't remember. We
Probably
have been
Hunt.
so many places.
Or what was the barbecue joint in Leeds we did the show from? What was it called?
Hucks.
Yeah,
Hucks.
Hucks.
We shut it down. It doesn't exist anymore, but that's okay. That's what we do. We're here to take things right down the tubes. So let's go to Dr. Adelot. See, it's his account. James, your name is on the live shot, so we're putting you in charge. So go, take it away. Please take it away.
We can't hear him.
Oh, now we can't hear them. All right.
Check.
We don't hear me.
Now we heard
I hear
somebody.
Kim.
Yeah, we heard of Kim.
Up green, I think.
You heard me, but not just. Is that a sign from the universe?
It's probably.
I'm
My
afraid their
mother-
bandwidth is a little weak too.
Mm-hmm.
Hello.
Okay, this
I-
is.
I think everybody is-
y'all
is-
would have tremendous bandwidth.
So
Hey,
take it away, guys. I think we're good now.
Oh, are we? Do you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Actually,
Yes,
yeah.
sir. We hear
you
everybody.
on
We're
both
all
microphones.
good.
All right, we're all good then. Okay, yeah, I moved the keyboard away so there may be less chat shenanigans from me. I think it was an intentional move. I'm pretty sure it is. But the director of the National Weather Service is speaking, so we're using hushed terms and hushed voices here.
It's the golf voices. Well, if you guys want to take it away, take it away. This is your show.
All right. Well, while we're speaking in hushed golf voices, I want to welcome. Remember, Aubrey. She's here with us.
Yay.
You guys hear Aubrey?
No, we cannot.
Oh, you need to turn up your volume, I guess, Aubrey. But there's a little set of knobs right there. on that
And you
controls.
could
So
y'all could all turn your volume up a little bit. It would be good.
How about that?
and now we move to the fairway on the 17th.
Yeah, exactly.
right.
Let's
do the
go
golf
to
clap.
James on 18.
Yeah.
Do you hear? Yeah, Aubrey for the bird. Do you hear? Do you hear her?
Do you hear now? How about?
Yeah. Crank it up a little more. Give us a little more. Crank it up. Turn up the wick.
How about that? Is that even better?
A little.
Yeah. I think y'all are having to whisper. That's just the problem. So we'll we'll crank it up on our end here for the
I
audio
think
show.
Director Graham is the one.
Okay.
This is WeatherBrains after all.
Yeah.
Okay, Graham's done, so now we can take over.
No.
It's just Chad now. It's
And,
fine.
yeah, Chad Gravel. Yes.
Aubrey is now NWA's reigning caster of the year.
Wow.
Hold up that line. Look at the
There might be
award.
some new hardware in my office.
Right.
Thank you so much.
She's kind of a big deal.
You know, I'm trying to do it without crying because WeatherBrains was such an integral part of my broadcasting career. I mean, I was with God for 7 years. I learned so much from you guys. I have no. I mean, this is overwhelming. It really is. You know, I said it on stage. I'm just a small market meteorologist trying to keep up with everyone else. You know, doing things that I'm passionate about. And you know, when I I never would have imagined I would be doing this. I wanted to be T. And I've been blessed with so many opportunities, whether being one of those. And I just, you know, if you work hard and you have motivation, determination, and you're willing to do the hard work, it will pay off. And I'm over the moon with it. So
Congratulations.
Work hard always pays off.
That's right. I know, I mean, miss you very much and your presence on the show, and I love that it still has the for you, the
course.
investment being part of it. Yeah.
I miss you guys. I think about you guys every Monday. You know, sometimes the workload, when you have a lot on, you know, I don't know how you squeeze it in with everything you're doing.
I'm more something weird. I don't know.
No sleep.
You figure more in every day. So, but yeah, it's definitely, you know, it was time for me to step. But I do that so many people just, you know, I learned so much. So many people, and you know, from the conference, say, "Oh, I remember you in weather. Are you doing it?" While ago, I stepped back. So.
Yep. So Bree, a little bit about, well, enter NWA and what did you excited to be here this
You know, there were some changes there, so I was really kind of excited to see. You know, they've been working on the agenda to do things a little bit more interactive and on, and not just sitting in your seat.
That's what the applause is for
So.
just now. Those changes.
So I think it's really great to see that. You know, and I love the theme this, you know, reframe, refocus. And that really was, you know, the true definition of NWA this year, just to see the changes, just the evolution of what we can do better on, what can we improve on so we continue to learn in such an organization. I think that's fantastic. And we're continuing to get that feedback. Kim's continuing to get that feedback on, you know, what do you guys want to hear? What do you want to see? What makes you learn? And so that stuff is engaging. And NWA always, it's like going to summer camp. You know, when you're a kid and you come home all energized and refreshed and, you know, you miss your friends, but you're ready to go. And that's what NWA does. It gives me that boost of energy, you know, especially, you know, maybe after a tough year. And we are just excited. We go home with new ideas, ways of doing things. And it really is re-energizing for so many of us. So it's just been great so far. And I hate that I have to leave tomorrow morning.
Oh, no.
But for next year, I will definitely stay much longer. So.
Yay.
It is required.
Yes, it is required.
Yes,
Yes,
much
of course.
required.
So what have you picked up at NWA this year that's gonna help you over the next few weeks and months?
You know, I think looking at a lot of the tools NWA is using, especially with the probabilistic hazards forecast, the WAFs, and just looking at these new products that they're really putting out to challenge us, not necessarily to challenge us, but I guess to aid us as we work through a lot of those challenges. I think that's very important, you know, and you're constantly learning these new tools and ways to use them and what works, what doesn't. And it's great to see the National Weather Service really taking our feedback. You know, what do you guys need as broadcasters? What can we do for you? The SPC historical stuff, you know, speaking of a lot of historical things, you know, that's a lot of data they're working toward, and that helps us as broadcasting, putting that information out. And sometimes it's frustrating with a slow process, but we're all used to it, you know, and it's something we know they're working on it. But I think these new products and just the development is so much. It's not technology, but just ways of doing things. You know, over here to we have to build communication with the viewer, build that trust with the viewer, to give them the best information that we can do. So to see all this evolution at just this level, I think it really makes a difference.
That's fantastic.
I have to just say that some of the sessions that I have to put together this year for NSEP, some of the national centers, is Aubrey. Last year, after we had FEC and the Hurricane Center and Weather Predict Center, and she came up to me and she said, "You know, I'd really love to hear more about is space weather. Can we get them in here?" I thought, yes, we can. And it was I keep
It's a
saying
great way to-
amazing
It was a
comments.
good start too. It was a really good week off the conference, and that was just, and he was such a, and his name, forgive me, I'm horrible.
Yeah,
at names.
Sean Dawn.
Sean was
Mhm.
awesome at, I mean, he did the energy, and even though you didn't feel like it wasn't, and it's really, you know, it's a learning lesson because we are station scientists, but we're tasked with so much. And so you have to find that fine line. You don't need to be that meteorologist that says, "Oh, I know it all about this. I know all about this." You use your resources. I don't know a lot about space, but I've learned a lot and I know who to go to get the information. And viewers love space weather. Anything that above 50,000 feet, they
It's
just
fascinating.
they do. They're
Yeah.
fascinated, and so it gets attention from the viewers.
I'll tell you what, like, and you probably feel this. I think we're all kind of space nerds in our field. There's so many of us that characterizes us, and that it's hard to understand those
It is.
forecasts. It really is. They know this. It's hard. I mean, they're in an early stage of development in ways. The things I've tried to do as a, you know, social scientist, risk communication specialist supporting them is just try to help people to understand how early everything is and to feel comfortable. It's okay if you don't understand. I want to know that because then we can figure out how can we make this more approachable to help you tell those stories to this very interested audience. So thank you again for the suggestion. And Aubrey, congratulations. You are wonderful. We love that you've been part of the WeatherBrains family and always will be. Thank you for letting us pull you into this today.
They did pull me in. They did. Pull me in.
They
But
pulled her in Polly.
James, Bill, I mean, it's so good to see you guys again. And we miss your, you know, of course, it'd be amazing if we had everyone. Hopefully to see you all next year. So thank you so much for the kind words. It's just been overwhelming. So, well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Congrats.
All right, folks. So we're going to attempt to also remember to give you guys, if you have any questions, you know, feel free to say, "Hey, James, we have a question we'd like to ask." We have a wonderful lineup actually of some guests with us that were provided for us and lined up by the Ron. And our first tonight is Kevin Deitsch from the forecast office in St. Louis, the WCM there. Welcome to WeatherBrains.
Yes, first time. I'm really excited to be here. This is fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
And sorry, you look like James, you look like you have a question right off the
Uh-oh.
bat.
I got tons of questions.
Uh-oh.
WCMing in St. Louis. Needless to say, you get all 4 seasons, and you get all 4 seasons sometimes really quickly.
Yes.
First of all, I guess, what's it like doing what you do in St. Louis? Because that is a market of extreme.
It is. And honestly, I mean, I'm a meteorologist, right? So we love extreme weather. So I think I have the job in the weather service. I think I work in one of the best places in the country for weather. We've got a relationship. You know, I know a lot of us here are on the media side. Our broadcast meteorologists are just fantastic in St. Louis. And you know, I get to work the weather, and then the next day I get to be out dealing with partners in the community of what we just did and how it affected them. So it's so funny. I love my job, and everyone's always like, you know, when are you going to bid on the next job? I don't want to bid on the next job. I love what I do, you know, so it's fabulous.
What you said decades ago would have never come out of that agency when you said working with partners. The
Right.
National Weather Service did their
Oh,
thing
gosh.
from their silo. Describe what the changes you've seen in your career getting up to
Yeah,
this point.
it's partners and it's partners first now. You know, it used to be we would sit behind our desk, put out our products, put out our warnings, and then let the partner, you all do with that what you please, right? And now it's every week going out. What can we do? We did a meeting with our B meteorologist about Slack, NWS chat. How can we help you in Slack? What do you want to see? So we're just so much more focused on the people really making the decisions, the people really communicating the important information, instead of us just, getting back and letting our products do what they do.
Well, speaking of that, we're here at the RON, the Research to Operations Nexus, a great place to bring all of those conversations to the forefront. What is it you have been excited for in this, this event in particular? But I mean, you're talking about is so much that intersection, and you work at it as a WEM.
Yeah. So Ron Presensky is from my office. He was the former Sue. Never met him, unfortunately, but we tell stories about Ron all the time. We still have some experienced folks in our office and Ron up. And actually, we have a training center in our office. We do like our West training and our radar training, and it's dedicated to Ron. So we've got pictures of Ron there. And so this event really has kind of a special place in my heart, even though not knowing him, really important in my office and the St. Louis area that we do this. This event in particular, it's just getting everyone at the table talking about certain topics in meteorology and how can we help each other. I mean, that's really what NWA is all about, is bringing people together, build a network. And these discussions, just fun looking around right now, everyone just really into the discussions of what's nice is you get to pick a topic you're passionate about and you get to sit at the table and have just great discussions of people that know a lot more about the topic than you do, and you can information share. So this is an awesome event.
Tell me about the biggest challenges that you face at the office and how the science that's changing, because I go from year to year to this.
Right.
And it's just amazing. Some of the presentations that were just kind of a pipe dream 5 years ago. How has this evolving intersection of, I guess it would be research meteorology, worked into what you do day by day, or just maybe even just during severe weather?
Yeah, that's a one. First one I think of is probabilistic. Years ago we we're really doing any of that. Now, office especially, we're pushing the envelope with probabilistic forecast information. Instead of the old, you're going to get 2 to 4 inches of snow. No, you have a 8% chance to get 2 inches of snow. And for MoDOT, or our DOT partners, 2 inches is when they put miles on. So that's a major threshold for them. And so it's wild to see where we were 5 years ago with probabilistic guys obviously becoming a machine learning a big part of what we do. We had really good discussions today about the Warn-On forecast system and some of the machine learning that goes into that. And again, 5 years ago, that wasn't even a thought, that we could give a probability of a tornado an hour out. Like, what? So that's crazy to think where we're going to be in the next 5 years, right? It's just amazing having these discussions.
Where are we going to be?
Right. Well, let's not. We'll say existential angst has also been a feature of this for maybe another hour down the road. Let's keep it happy for the moment. I'd have some severe existential angst last night thinking about the artificial intelligence presentations. We'll get there. But Kevin, so something you've been highlighting are the technological developments and some that you're attending to. But I also understand that the forecast office in St. Louis has been doing groundbreaking work in thinking about service equity. Can you tell me a little bit about what that is like in your office?
Yeah, so it's true, right? When one thing that we were just trying to do is identify, who are some of the underserved folks in our area. And the list is long, right? You got some inner city, agricultural, we have some Amish and Mennonite in our community. And so the list is long, and we kind of struggled at first. It's like, where do we even start with this? But one thing we did do that I'm pretty passionate about, we met with the mayor of St. Louis and kind of talked with her and her staff about, some of the underserved in the St. Louis city. We came up with a STEM week in St. Louis. We have a STEM week every year, and on Wednesday, it's Weather Wednesday. And so on Wednesday of that week, we bring our broadcast meteorologists, we bring in other meteorologists from the area. We put on a little experiment, a bunch of different booths. They rode around and go through weather things. And it's been awesome. This is the 3rd year that we've done it. And the attendance here is up and up and up. And we did, in an inner city area. It's fabulous seeing the kids light up and be exposed to some STEM things that maybe they haven't been exposed to before. And it's one of the more rewarding things in my career.
I want to open the floor too to our virtual attendees here to the RON. You guys have questions then about on St. Louis weather service? Anything on your minds?
Food recommendations. Is the arch cool? Anything,
Ted Drew's. Ted Drew's. Ted Drew's.
Ted
Always
Drew's
Ted
is
Drew's.
fabulous. Yes, it's fantastic. Actually, the owner just passed away.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. But they'll keep it going. It's a
Yeah.
great spot.
Yeah, we were
I
just
see.
there a few years ago for the NWA
Yep.
and had a great time. And of course, availed ourselves of all the famous St. Louis foods. We even took James Spann out for dinner one night with Dr. Harold Brooks and had barbecue. But yeah, we had a Weatherfest. I think, was that the last weather? I guess Huntsville was the last Weatherfest. But we had a huge Weatherfest at the Science Center. And it was a spectacular success. And I remember it was hotter than blue blazes that day in September. It was about 106 degrees, I think, and we nearly all melted. But what a great, what a great time we had there for
Yeah,
sure.
the St. Louis Science Center is just a awesome spot. And yeah, they always draw a crowd. They do a great job with the advertising. Yeah, that was a great weather fest. I was a part of that. It was great.
Something that I think is so interesting about St. Louis is its diversity. There's so many layers to it too. So there's the population diversity. We're talking about the urban, rural,
Yeah.
and like all of the populations that can comprise an urban population, but also geographically. I feel like you're situated in such an interesting place because you sort of are this boundary zone of transition between weather winter regimes and you get there and a lot of modes set. And do you feel like as a forecast office, those are really challenging confluences there.
Really are, and it seems like whenever we have a weather event, it's two cells and turns in some sort of QLCS method. Yeah, wind crosses down just because of the difference that we see. And you're right, geographically we have quite a range. Our northern county Warren area, we have those arcs. High bottom in Missouri is in our area. And then you get up toward I-70 corridor in St. Louis, it gets much flatter. Kind of have a lot of farm, especially in the Illinois side. And you get further north into northern Missouri, there's not much there at all, nice and flat and mainly farmland. So we have a big mix of urban, ag, rural, and then switch down in the south Missouri. So yeah, it's challenging to say this. In the Ozarks, we're finding we're actually doing research locally. They kind of mess up the weather and some of the moisture return into weather events. Kind of the Ozarks can either hinder it or can kind of help curl around it, and so we can get into activity to the north and east of the Ozark Mountains, and so yeah, it's challenging is a is a good word to describe.
Yeah.
We were talking a minute or two ago about underserved communities.
Mhm.
What is your biggest challenge getting what messaging to them in an actionable way?
I think just the way in the weather service we disseminate information, right? It's through apps, it's through things that people sign up for, but there's really not one thing that the weather service can give these underserved communities to get information. Maybe weather radio could be one of those. But if they're not English speaking, what do we do for that?
And the buy-in on having a weather radio is expensive.
Yes, exactly. A great point. And so I think that's where we struggle the most is like we want to make a difference. We want to get in these communities and we can do outreach within them. When push comes to shove and that tornado is coming to them, even though we've kind of started to build a relationship, we get information in an actionable way. And I think weather is the whole kind of thing. Want to help, give these people, everything. It's, now we have a lot of resources, and we're trying to figure out what we can do. So.
Yeah, part of that might be even just aware of where you're going, populations you are reaching. I understand that even just sort of mapping what that looks like and plotting it against some very like a social vulnerability index map can be really revealing. And I think you guys did that in your office. What did you find?
Yeah, so we thought that we have a really good map teacher. I'll give him a shout out. He's fantastic with GIS, and so we've actually tailored all of our outreach and our spotter talks to more vulnerable communities. So we actually use that sort of vulnerability index. Let's say we've got 60 requests for spotter talks in a given year. We opt to give 60. It's a lot in a year. So what we will do is kind of pick areas that have the high vulnerability. Going to the same area year after year after year, is that really making a difference? I don't know. But going to a new area that's maybe more vulnerable than areas we've been before, that makes more sense to me. And so we've kind of shifted our whole spotter program to that realm. And the same thing with school talks. we used to pretty much any school talk we were asked to do, we would try to fulfill. We're getting too many of them now. And so we're trying to prioritize, okay, what are schools that we haven't been to? What are schools that are in more vulnerable prone areas? Maybe they don't have as good of structure or good as housing and that kind of thing. And so we're prioritizing based on the social vulnerability index. Not a silver bullet. It's not the best tool, but it's a kind of a quick and dirty tool to say, hey, we should focus our outreach more in these areas. So it's been great to do that. Again, another fulfilling thing. I feel like we're making a difference and trying to get in communities we just haven't been in before.
And sorry, go ahead.
What's the one thing that keeps you up at night? And don't say binge watching something on Netflix. I mean, weather related. For sure.
So back in 1993, we had a major flood in St. Louis. The Chesterfield Valley, the levee failed. I don't know if it actually failed or if it was overtopped. Anyway, the dates through literally the way I go to get to the office was underwater weeks. A flood like that is really concerning because that area, the Chesterfield Valley, St. Louis, has built up since then. And so if there was a flood like that and the levee did not hold or it was overtopped, I mean, it would be billions and billions of dollars affected in the floodplain there. So I think that's one thing. The thing is we have a lot of outdoor events, and I'm really passionate about having a meteorologist on site when we get into these outdoor events. So for those familiar with St. Louis, like the Muni, for instance, it's a really large outdoor, they have plays there, musicals and things like that. And just views like that, getting stuck in some sort of large, damaging tornado, wind, hail, whatever it might be, like what happened out in Denver with the rocks and the hail. It's that kind of thing definitely keeps me up. Yeah, those are what I mean come to mind.
I guess I have one last question, and I'll back to you folks. If you have anything further to ask Kevin, but as you have done this exercise of trying to press into areas that maybe you hadn't been as much before, and I don't know if this is a touchy question, but I think it's an important one.
Sure.
Do you feel like we have the diversity in our workforce to effectively even know where to start with some of these communities? And tell me about that.
Yeah, that's an easy answer. And no. And that's one of the reasons we're trying to get in these communities. We want our office to represent the communities that we work in, right? And we don't have that right now. And so I don't think we can build those relationships properly and do the work that we need to do without that. And that's one reason we went to the mayor's office, to get some buy-in from an elected official that has some clout in the community, and that would seem to work. And that's kind of my advice to anyone trying to do this with some of these communities is you can't just go in there and say, knock on the door and say, hey, here we are. You have to have a relationship with somebody kind of respected. Well, we've had some success trying to do it that way, but we just need more diversity, 100%, and that's something we're really trying to work on.
Does that lack of diversity go all the way up in how we message and how we disseminate? And this seems like it doesn't stop until it gets a lot deeper.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, because we're not bringing perspectives to the table with it, right? Our dissemination, had that been built out with all these different groups as part of it, it might look different today, right? And so I think that's something we need to strive for, and we're really working on that. But it's a challenge. You're starting kind of from ground zero.
Let's see what the got any good questions at the nurturing biosphere of the mothership before I've got a couple of food related questions for
fabulous.
What was the biggest forecast challenge in St. Louis? Snow, tornadoes, floods?
Good question, James. I would say it's probably winter weather, because we are always on the edge of precip types. I've never seen so much snow at 36 degrees in my life before moving to St. Louis. And it's always a question of, are we going to have the rates to actually let it accumulate? Or is it going to be just, a light moderate snow that, it's going to snow, but it actually is going to affect roads. It's going to melt on contact. So that's probably the biggest thing that comes to mind is only, are we going to get snow, but is the rate going to be enough to cause road impacts? And in St. Louis, we're not really used to a ton of snow. So it doesn't take much. An inch or two is really all it takes you'd probably know. Is all it really takes to shut down the city, unfortunately. So we really hair out on those, 1 or 2 degree temperature forecasts of how much snow we're going to get.
And Jen knows the reason, the challenge, right, Jen?
Absolutely. It's because of I-70.
No, never.
There's something about that interstate that completely screws up the forecast. Because I do Kansas City, and it's just a mess. I have no idea. North of I-70 is this, south of I-70 is like this magical line.
And they're gonna make it 3 lanes all the way across the state. I don't know what that's gonna do.
Who knows? Oh no, there are 3 different types of weather at once. Who knows?
But yeah, it always seems I-70 is always in the middle ground. And yeah, you're right. North is snow, south is snows. Mostly rain, freezing, all the above. But yeah, those are in stocks we brief out our state partners too. So I've briefed the governor, briefed ODOT, and some of those little state partners. And yeah, it's always a challenge trying to, well, this part of the state's going to get this. It's always a transition somewhere across the state. So it's tough. Hey,
So,
why we're
so the weather service is really a broadcaster now with social media. What's your, kind of the way you approach social media in your office in terms of staffing and communication? Some offices use a lot of humor. I think they're very personable. Some don't. What's your philosophy there in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think we're kind of in the middle. So I would say 2 to 3 years ago, we were really big on social media, especially Twitter. The thing with Twitter now, obviously it's changed a little bit, not as chronological as it used to be. That was a big thing for us, right? People would refresh their feed and have the latest information right there at top. Unfortunately, it's not really like that anymore. So we've kind of actually backed off a little bit on social media. We've really found a lot more power in using our NWS chat system to talk directly with partners. And so when we have big events, especially severe weather events, we dedicate just one person to Slack and NWS chat because it's really important to, take little snippets of radar. This is the part of the storm we're worried about. We're going to continue this warning. We're not going to continue this warning. Here's where the rotation's going. This is side lobing. It's not agitation. Everything you think of might, as broadcasters, you have to communicate that. And so we're really trying to lean into that platform and utilize that and maybe to take a little bit step back from social media.
Kevin, talk about side lobing for a minute. Just give us some tips out there for spotting. And I know James A is an expert on it too. But how to spot it, what causes it and what you can do about it, when you're monitoring the radar.
Yeah, so what causes it is the radar beam basically hits hail aloft in the storm, and some of that energy is actually reflected downward, and so you get kind of a false velocity signature at some of the lowest tilts. I think the best way to spot it is match it up with reflectivity. If there's no reflectivity there and you have what looks like a circulation, it's probably bogus. That's probably side lobing. Another good way to do it, and I do this a lot, and I do this with a lot of radar things, is loop it. Right? Is it a continuous thing? A lot of times side lobing will be kind of down, up, down, up, down, and it won't really look like a continuous thing when you loop the radar. So that's a really good tip too, is kind of put it in motion, see does it look like a continuous thing kind of moving, or is it kind of in and out? In which case that's a really good sign of side lobing. And it's work radar with side lobing is easy. There are times where you have reflectivity, it looks like it could be in the right spot, and it's still side lobing, and so you have to. I know I worked an event earlier this year. I was a warning assistant with the warning forecast, and we were going back and forth like, is it side lobing? Is it not? So it's not always cut and dry. Those are at least some tips to kind of look for.
And it's kind of insidious too, because just because you have side lobe contamination does not, you don't have
exactly
rotation.
Right, it's contaminated. So the real data might actually be rotation. Right. So yeah, that's all challenge too. And it makes us nervous, admittedly, when you're working there and you're seeing that and you're in a good environment for tornadoes. It's like, do I push the trigger or do I not? It can be challenging.
Yeah, I flipped out when I saw that big couplet off Dolphin Island the other day, James Spann, during Francine, and later the weather service in Mobile said it was definitely side lobing. I felt kind of silly for talking about it because it looked like a couplet to me for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely is.
Well, I was just going to follow up on that. Do you feel like it's a little bit more common now than maybe 10 years ago to try to be cautious about making warning decisions, that maybe a coupling of learning about, or just being concerned about false alarms and their possible effects, but also about what we're learning about the, lots of observations. What's your experience on that? Do you feel conservative sort of vibe permeating through?
Yeah, I think that's fair, and especially in Missouri, we had the Joplin tornado back in 2011, and a big finding of that was, the sirens went off 4 times, and people were kind of false alarms, were getting immune to it, and so that certainly has played into our mindset. We always frame it as shouldn't issue a tornado warning when a tornado is possible. A tornado should be likely every time you put a tornado warning out, and I think sometimes we can get that confused, right? That being said, though, there's some recent research that actually shows that maybe false alarms aren't a good deal as we think they are, and so it's definitely a balance. I still think when you put out a tornado warning, a lot of things that go on when you do that, right? Sirens off, everyone's phones go off. So a tornado should be likely in that case. We should be lighting up people for a possibly likely. That's kind of what we have in the back of mind. I think we do fairly well with our stats and our but we can always improve and always try to do better. But false alarms is certainly on our minds.
QL, yes.
Pretty word. It is. I think we're the QLS capital of the world, and Pulse is not far behind. But yeah, it's challenging. The good thing is though, and we're great, but develop the 3 ingredients method is a very solid thing for QLCS tornadoes, and our office uses it religiously. Got little cut sheet tools and AWIPs to do it. And so, we really are scientific about making those decisions when it comes to
and to weather hobbyists. This is, you can Google Ron 3 ingredient method, and the best part about it, as somebody in broadcasting dealing with this a lot, is you can do it very quickly.
Yeah, exactly.
This does not take.
No, it doesn't at all, and that's what's the beauty of it. It's real quick and easy. Like I said, some of the numbers you can get a little sheet with you. And yeah, I should have a tornado warning. So it makes it a little more scientific, a little more quantitative, and that brings consistency to our warning, which I think is really.
All right, they're
so let's get real here. I'm always asking the real questions. What's the FAR and the POD in St. Louis?
Oh, that's the question. I have not ran it for this year. I think we're near the national average. So the FAR is around 70%, which is not good enough, as we all know. 70% false alarm is not good. I think there's a couple things, and you guys all know this too. Is it that we didn't have a tornado, or is it that we didn't feel the tornado, didn't hit anything? I think there's part of that, especially when overnight in the Ozarks, for instance, we get a lot down there. And POD is another issue because we've got TDSs now, we've got CC, we're reading and getting reports of way more things than we ever did before. So that's those are kind of working against us in a way. But today, we go through every event we have, whether we hit tornadoes or miss tornadoes, through what could we have done better and learn from it. And I think that's really all we do, with the technology that we currently have.
I was going to say, we're now rotating between groups 1 and 2. We have another person also.
I'm facilitating, so I probably need to hop.
Yeah, you okay. You have a responsibility, but Graham is very close. Are you brave enough to let him a minute?
Yeah, I want to clarify one thing you said.
Yep.
Before we started, and we're really bragging that St. Louis barbecue is so much better than Kansas City or Alabama or Texas. I mean, you just got.
Yeah, I was. You know what? True. I'll say it, Eric. St. Louis barbecue is, I think, it's very underrated.
I'm gonna go find him. Foreheads.
Well, and you go forth and moderate your shit. Thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us.
Thank you. Yeah, for timer. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it all.
It was a joy. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Kevin.
All right, guys. So while Adelot tries to see a non-creepy stalker here. Oh my gosh, he's got update. Ken's just like, sure. Great. Ken Graham coming. Get your questions ready, guys.
Can never go
He's
wrong with
kind of a big deal. He's the tallest hog in the trough.
Yeah.
That's usually true in any trough too, James.
That's true.
Yeah, we got
tallest hog in the trough.
Look, amazing group of people on phone. What an honor this is.
Well, we're honored to have you, sir, and thank you for joining us. I think, what are you excited about being at the run? It's a wonderful event, and curious to hear what value does it have for the weather service? What do you love about it?
The big thing to me is the first table I sat at was the AI table, right? And you
Oh.
start thinking about some of the AI modeling, and it just last a couple weeks ago, being at the ECNWF in the UK, and looking at some of the stuff that they're doing with AI. They have non-physics models that are performing usually well, and they're not even sure why they're performing so well, right? So there's a real future in some of this AI modeling that in some cases might be non-phys based, and that's something. So if it's non-physics based, it could mean what models. What do you want? Hourly? I mean, this could really change how we do things. And you think on worn-on forecasts, how some of that could feed some of the worn-on forecasts that we have in the future. There's some game changer stuff going on. And how much do I believe in AI and what we're doing in the Weather Service? Spring of 2025, our national blend model will be full probabilistic.
Wow.
So we will have a full database in this country of blending the models. They're going to be completely probabilistic, best case, worst case scenarios, all built in there. And you add AI in this, and it's going to be tough for the regular forecaster to be able to beat some of that technology. So I'm transforming the entire National Weather Service, making all that happen. Take that in. I mean, we're transforming the whole agency to be flexible. This is going to be our business, and this is going to change, and I will right in front of us, and it's exciting. It's exciting.
My article skip it. This is in that room yesterday, bring about AI work. There was lots of crestfallen.
The Weather Service poll, I've been saying it for 2 years, that this is coming, and us transforming the agency gives us an opportunity to take advantage of those tools. And for us to be eye to eye, you'll be able to take all those tools, bring that to the decision makers online, right? They're with more information. Think about an elected official or an emergency manager dealing with everything coming in and probable information. What do you mean 10% exceed? What do you mean 90%? What does this stuff mean? They're going to need the meteorologists, the hydrologists, the scientists more than ever to be with them eye to eye. The one they trust, by the way, they work with all the time, because social science shows they're going to make a better decision based on solid information. Do we disguise some of the probabilistic information as determinists, make sure we get a decision? Let's talk. How does that work? What do we show on air, on television? So we're changing the agency to keep up with that, and quite frankly, to have relevance for next century to come. We'll be on the lines with those decisions.
Those are all legitimate concerns. And I think listening to the conversation yesterday around AI, I could understand people having that concern. One of the things that I think is wonderful about what you're talking about is that eye to eye, being in person in a virtual world that is increasingly, I mean, we were seeing yesterday in the AI session it's so easy to mimic a person. So having an assurance that you're even talking to the person you think you're talking to in the future, that might not be something we can take for granted. Really might need to focus on some of the nuts and bolts of human relationships in being in person or being, closer at hand. Is that part of why you've made that such an emphasis? Just seeing we can't put this all on technology because technology is, it's going to better than humans in some areas, but also we have to be mindful of still being present in be human together.
And the word trust. So a lot of it is about trust. And I could tell so many stories over the years. I remember Hurricane Isaac. You have a barely a Category 1, right? And it's fall storm. Nobody's worried about it. It's just a Cat 1, no big deal type of thing. But the problem was there's subtleties to it. It's moving at 2 miles an hour. The rainfall forecast was 2 feet of rain. The storm surge forecast, 14 feet. And after 2 briefings, the state of Louisiana, I gave 2 briefings, and there's nothing happening. By the way, they're the best briefings ever. Right, James? They were the best briefings ever that I gave. And
you got that right. You got that right.
And then, but then I'm like, what's going on? There's like nothing happening. What am I doing wrong? So the 3rd briefing, I gave the same exact value, same. This time, I remember the governor at the time, Governor Jindal, that anybody actually go, we need to call us, get shelves open. Anything happened. And I'm like, what did I just do? And so, Governor, do you have a skit? And he goes, of course, man. That briefing the same as the last 2. What was the difference? He goes, oh, you were nervous. He goes, Ken, the verbals.
Nonverbal cues, sure.
I was nervous. I didn't feel nervous. I sweat on your forehead. Your voice cracked a couple times. You scared me, man. And then it was the trust. We had the relationship ahead of time, and we're not talking about people deploying at blue. You can't deploy to New Orleans unless you go to Chapatulas, right, gang? Chapatulas. You go there and mispronounce it. Say you're not from around here. You don't do your briefing. It's about trust. It's about getting there early. It's about being there on the front lines doing the exercises, right? Earning your keep. You build that trust, and it makes a big difference. And that's what banking on is relationship.
Biggest challenge facing your agent? I mean, we look physically, and it's a flat budget. That's a problem in 2024. Can you discuss that?
Yeah, I mean, look, we every time the little employees get a raise, for example, let's raise, everybody got, wonderful, right? Everybody gets a raise. I'm very happy for them, but it costs our agency $5 million. We don't get that. So every time these things happen, the budgets are so flat. And actually, I want to thank Congress at this. There were so many cuts to government. We actually got support. That wasn't necessarily news in the world, honestly. The modest income to do some things. It's not enough, but every time we don't get the adjustments for inflation, our vacancies grow. So we have 300 now. We'll probably have about 300 by the time we get to the end of the year. So these vacancies are growing. So we appreciate it, but it's not keeping pace with what we need to be able to. I need to replace the radar. So we have a study that's looking at radar part. By 2035, ready for this one? By 2035, we'll start seeing catastrophic failures in the AD. I've got to replace the radar by the 2030s. So there's some significant infrastructure that we're on. We've got to get ourselves to the cloud. Absolutely got to get ourselves to the cloud. You think right now, you love the right? A donkey kicks a pole in the and I lose 5 offices. Take a donkey kicking a pole in and I lose half of the Alabama, probably the Georgia offices. Just that. Yeah. So I've got to be able to dress up, to be able to get to the cloud, to shore up the infrastructure, because missed warnings, it's not a game. So I got to fix that. Here's the number one threat to the agency. It's retaining the next generation. We're doing a great job lining people up to want to work at the Weather Service. It's a great place. But I'm losing 1 in 10 new hires in the first year. I'm losing 1 in 10 new hires in the first year. Part of it is they come in and I don't want to do this gridded forecast that you've all done for so many years. I want to do this other stuff, information. I want to be on the front lines. It's a different generation. We have an exit survey, so we find out. I don't know, these shifts and these overnight shifts and all that. I need flexibility. I'm a new mom and I have to drive 3 hours round trip to get to the office, but there's an emergency operations center minutes away. The other service work there. Right, we're going to go really into the cloud and allow this flexibility, maybe even at home with Cloud being able to do this. We've got to find a way to be able to bring attention. And the other reason, the number one reason they leave, office culture. So we're working on how to build a culture that's positive, a culture that supports, a culture that trains, a culture that is dynamic and able to really support for this flexibility that we're looking at. So we have data, and it's time to do something about it.
I'll ask a follow-up on off-call. A lot of organizations found that you can't enforce a culture from top down. It's to rise from the bottom up. How does that look?
I'm fortunate because I am the bottom up. So I'm the first director to go from intern to director. I was a paying member of the bargaining unit, the union, when I was a junior in this age. So I could work shifts, I could work shifts. So it's an interesting movement, so to speak. Trying to talk about this, everyone talks. I have something called Ken's Connections, a submission box. Every employee in the National Weather Service has access to. I've answered 956 of them so far. Right. So I am really peering into the culture of the agency. I'm addressing it. We have talks. Here's all our problems. I don't need to hear them again. I need solutions. And it's working. Does that make sense? So it's not imposing yet another say. on a burned out workforce. You don't need another survey. You need real solutions and flexibilities. And we have the buddy program where nobody feels alone in our agencies. We're looking at the flexibility of having another forecaster to balance out the midnight shifts. Brand new thing. Don't tell anybody, right?
Uh-oh.
The secret to us. We're working with the union has been incredibly supportive of these initiatives. They're really helping us get this done on the Hill and with the workforce. We're looking at, as long as you pull a number of shifts, there could be some flexibility when those are. We implemented restrictions. When I was a forecaster, when you've done issuing the forecast, you walked around the office on the mission about 4:30 in the morning. You know, you took a break. Now we have IDSS, we have social media. We filled every break time with stuff. So implemented official to take breaks, right? You're paid to break. We want people to take breaks. So we're really addressing some of this office.
And it's interesting, and it circles back to what we've talked about with decision making. And this is something about trust. They're trusting that this is going to be addressed with something more than lip service, that we're actually going to get a solution with some of this stuff. Next question is, can you help the partners? And off of there.
I think we're going to lead the way. I think the enterprise is in flux right now. The AI and everything is going to change. I think we're going to lead the way in some of those changes. We have a burnout survey that went out in 2022. Our profession, including emergency managers, check me if I'm wrong, James. Everybody, back on me this. Our profession's getting pretty burned out. We're busier than ever. We're seeing more events. It's constant. Plus, you have more things, don't you? It's not just the 6 and 10. You got the social media, you got the events. There's just more than ever. So it's a matter of how we come together. And our burnout survey was really interesting. It had a bunch of reasons why people are burned out. And if you come to my office, I invite everybody listening. I should be careful. Everybody listening, come visit me on the 18th
Everyone.
floor. Everyone visit me on the 8th floor in Silver Spring. Look, I have a whiteboard up there, and in orange words, I wrote down every comment of the burnout survey. One of them was no more survey. Because we survey people constantly and we don't do anything about it because it makes somebody feel good. Sorry to be harsh, but that's what happens. But it's flexibility, it's job satisfaction. The whole list, there's not one we're not tackling.
What lessons are you taking from other professions? We saw this in medicine badly during the pandemic. What have other professions given you to help address this?
Look, I looked at the nursing profession and, the rotating shifts are really hard. So you start looking at the medical profession. There are people in our agency that prefer midnights. Why don't we let them do that? We have to fight to do little things like that. So it's how do you allow it? How do you have flexibility? If you want the midnight shifts and that's best for your family, then work midnight. But it's none of this is against the law. None of it's against policy. We just never did it that way. It's rethinking these things. After significant, I said with the 6 shifts. That means we every single day have 260 some people around the clock across the country on the midnight shift. Killing people with this, literally. So how do we do that more efficiently? How do we expand our domains to help a neighbor out? So you think about mutual aid. The emergency managers do mutual aid really well. So we try to do pre-deploy, we try to do it, but for the most part, if one office is incredibly busy, Birmingham is off-chart busy. They can't even take it. Everyone else in the weather is, we're looking at our weather app going, look at that radar. Look at that gate to gate. Whoa. We look at it, them helping Birmingham. So how can we expand domains so other people can help Birmingham issue warrants? How can we help Birmingham put out the forecast so they could concentrate on talking to James or on Pat and talking to the emergency managers and the briefings? We don't do that well, not because we don't want to, but it wasn't in our culture and we didn't have the technology to do it. So that we've learned from emergency management to look at expanded domains and how can we really help each other. You got somebody bored across the country, and kick it in them to help out. Why not? Quit burning out our people. We've got to be able to figure this out.
It's better than working through a Comet module.
Correct. Yeah.
Real work.
Yeah. It's real life. And how do you take the severe weather experts in the country and put them to more work? They can provide mutual aid for severe weather events. We have fire experts. You look at some offices that may issue tornado warning every 10 years. We have that. So when they finally have the tornado, they're scrambling. Why do we put them through that? We can have mutual aid to help them be able to do that. There's no threat to the job. Fire experts, tsunami experts, marine experts share some of this. And the role of the centers, the national centers, are going to be back with forecasting. And something that I'll announce right here is we are the days 4 through 7 in grids. We're centralizing to the prediction center. Listen to that. That's huge. So days 4 through 7, we're going to control to the weather prediction center. Why? Because we got to get our offices on the front lines day 1 through 3. Nobody dies at day 7. We have to be able to look at days 1 through 3, focus there on the decision support. And if you blend the models of probabilistic, beat the computers anyway, right? So these are the tough decisions that we're trying to make, be able to really help people out, because people like meteorologists, most of us wanted to do this since we were 6, 7 years old. We build a whole world around everything we've created. Don't let anything go. We never let anything go. We have to be able to do the most important stuff, and we have just to this action.
Was it big motivation for job that you took when it became available to you? The big part of that a desire to care for our field and workforce. I hear it just so clearly in everything you're saying. I think because you rose through the ranks, you saw the suffering, honestly, and the suffering for heart, for love. That's what gets everyone into this job, and it's the mission we love, and people killing themselves for it. And I see you and everything you're doing about heart. Was that a big part of your motivation?
I'm about to tear up. Yes.
You are.
I'm tearing on air, James. This is unbelievable. What kind of show is this? Like, the whole place just heard me say
They've
that.
already said what kind of show is this before you said it too.
Absolutely. See the suffering. Look through your vacancy. How do we make up for it? Again, right? We never let anything fail. We do the overtime. We do everything to never make it fail. So as a result, it's a burned out workforce. We got 300 vacancies, 380 coming. And if you think about it, yes, I've been on the job to take care about everybody so much. I mean, it's off the chart. And the other part of it was, for the motivation, was how many times over 30 years did I say, we can do better? We should do it this way. Why don't we do it this way? If I'm ever in the next position, I would do it this way. So I'm like, I like this hurricane center thing, but wow, I got to put money where my mouth is, right? At some point, you got to own the chance to be able to get in this position and give it a shot. Does that make sense? And that's what it was. It was a chance to make the difference, a chance to do all the things that my generation has been talking 30 years and never had the opportunity, never had the support to be able to do that. Now in a position to say, let's let loose. Let's do the things to take care of people. Let's do the things to ensure our agency is structured. A 35-year-old operations model. I'm changing it. We're going to be in 1,000 locations in the next 10 years. We're completely changing our operations model because it was built on the radars. You don't have access to the next hour, everything. I saw the hurt of the workforce, and they will do anything to keep the mission going, right? I'm fighting so hard to get the resources to be able to make up for that. We have some very painful internal exercises going on as we speak to not do everything. We have a whole team built on what to stop. Because if you could stop the time, if you could stop the money being spent on it, you could redirect that to what? The hiring. 300 people, $60 million. In a $1.2 billion agency, I don't buy that we can't really scrub this agency and find money. Very painful. It's going right now. So I've never had a job where I didn't cause a lot of chaos on my wake. I can argue that we were better for it on the round.
And I hear some organizational principles that remind me of, in private sector, Herb Kelly and Southwest Airlines. We can't serve the customer well unless our employees are served well.
Yeah.
James, that was exactly what I was just thinking. Because you're caring for them, that enables them to really pour that care into other people. You're freeing them to do what it is that they actually wanted to do all along. I feel that really acutely as a social scientist in this agency. Like, it's wonderful. The amount of literacy that your workforce has built in my field, because they're just so dedicated, is enormous. They make that investment, but they've also been freed and allowed to do that. I think part of it, you've a picture of permission to explore, to experiment. I've noticed the difference. It is a wholly different organization to work alongside. So it's been incredible. And sorry, I'm making him tear up again, guys. Let's pass it over to you guys. I'm gonna stop being sappy.
Never.
So,
But people, you're right. People first. People first. If I take care of the people, they will take care of the mission. I promise how it works. And my number one priority when I got the job, I told everybody was people number one.
all right, Ken, you're 2 years into this, a little over 2 years. Best part of the job, worst part of the job.
The best part of the job by far is the fact that I'm seeing a difference. Visiting the Fort Worth WFO today, the Fort Worth ROC, hearing that there's excitement for this transformation, to hear that we're making a difference in some of the flexibilities that we're giving. Went to the CWSU in Fort Worth and their union steward saying, "Hey, I want to tell you something. Restorative break that you've given us has changed my life. The job is so stressful here. Just the 10-minute corner has changed my life." So the best part about this is already seeing the Hill support the transformation. I was eating lunch in the Capitol, a hamburger, loving just enjoying the time. Someone walks by, comes back, and goes, "Ken Graham, how's that Ken's 10 going?" You serious? Handing them out like Uno cards. James, like Uno cards at Ken's 10 on the catalog. I'm on the bathroom walls. It's everywhere. I see bulletin boards. I'm pinning them up there. Right? Everybody knows about this. So seeing the support from the field, seeing the support on the Hill has been unbelievable. The hardest part for me is, I'm trying to be really careful how you're going to be able to fill in the blank. It's those in a hierarchical sense, not the in a sense of hierarchy in our agents in the structure of government, the importance of what we do, and trying to get them to trust and not make this more than it should be. I'll let everybody fill in the blanks. So,
I don't know what you can mean by that.
A, B.
Let's see if we can figure that one out. So, and another question, real quick, Ken. In let's say 10 years, do you see a larger number of employees with the Weather Service or a smaller number of employees working for the Weather Service? 10 years.
10 years from now, I see you can have the same number but do different things, James. I think AI is going to open up a whole new world of that I can't even guess the number of people that we're going to need. You're going to have all those people on that line, and I predict AI is not going to help us with the model forecast and the science, but AI is going to give us a first shot at some of the impacts. AI is going to give us a first shot at knowing that's a vulnerable community and knowing that you're going to have big impacts there, and us needing people in those vulnerable communities to be able to really dictate what those impacts are going to be. So it's hard to predict. I think it's equal, if not more, but it's going to be doing something different. The other part of this is from an environmental sense, there's other human health that we're not doing right now when you look at heat. There's so much more that we could do with heat and getting people into these areas to help culture in the AC to be able to say, I earn a good amount of money my work because I type something, I draw something, and I press enter. I've got to be able to teach that to be part of the job. It's also your good taxpayer dollars to be in a community, teaching them to get information from television, how to get information from us, how to get this information, build resiliency plans on a short-term scale and, dare I say, a climate scale, long-term scale. Things are changed to be able to. We need to be helping with exercises. I need exercise experts. Whether James, I think the answer is I think you can't predict it. I think it's equal or more, but it's doing different things.
And Ken, one more question: How do you avoid burnout? Goodness gracious! I mean, you are traveling the nation, seeing these local offices. I don't think you stop. How do you, as the director of the National Weather Service, avoid burnout?
I bought a bike.
Okay, Neil.
You have the training wheels still, right?
No, I had an 18-year-old bike. It was unbelievably heavy, and the chain would slip, and I would fall off the bike. It was unbelievably terrible. So now I bought a brand new bike. I'm going to be starting to do that. And I really try to shut down when I can, but it's hard. If you look at travel, I mean, I was in the UK for a week. I was in Bismarck yesterday and for work today. I'll be in Oklahoma City tomorrow. I wake up sometimes, I don't know where I am. I'm not kidding. It's a weird thing. And one time I didn't know where I was, and there was a cookie that said, "This welcome to Costa Rica," and I was in Costa Rica. I didn't know where I was. Thank God for that little cookie that said, "Welcome to Costa Rica." So there's things like that keep me going. Humor keeps me going, James. Look at this whole view. Look, I constantly use humor to keep myself going because it's all perspective, right? In the end, the entire workforce is watching me. If I show, those agency gets really try to humor, but I'm not going to lie at all to anybody. I practice what I preach. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot to put in for this, but I'm passionate about it. I absolutely love what I do. I look forward to getting up, going to work every day.
James ate a lot. You can pass on some of your puns to Ken.
Nobody wants that. I was asked if you want to start a food war. We're trying to get that going here on Food Brains. Traveled a lot. Who's got the best barbecue in this great?
Oh my gosh, this is my problems. It's a mess.
Work here is finished.
So, look, I would set the state, so I'd be remiss to talk about some of the pork barbecue there in Mississippi. Some of my favorite ever. I absolutely love it. So that's my vote for places that I got to visit around Starkville.
Pizza, deep dish, thin crust.
Thinner the better for me.
New York wants a word with you. No, Chicago wants a word with you.
Yeah. New York's like, yeah.
Good pizza. It's a lot of crust.
Yeah, it's a lot of
hot
crust.
takes with Ken.
All right, Jen, Bill, questions from you guys?
Bill, you haven't said anything, and that
Yeah, Ken? What about the new supercomputer for NOAA? Is it called Rhea? Is that right? What will that do for your agency? Because I guess it's spread across all the different agencies under NOAA.
Yeah, so that one there, we're really trying to look at not just the operational computers, but the research computers as well. So having the research computers to be able to see the way we have it now, we try to separate that, but the problem is to get research time, you can't impact operations. So there's a competition. We don't mean it, but there's a competition to get that space. So to be able to have one that's really dedicated to some of the big research, climate models, other models that we can run, we don't have to interfere with the operational supercomputer. So that's the big excitement about that. But the other part is, your guess as good as mine as anybody's on what these AI models do. If you start physics, you think about what we're going to need for computation, that's a game changer when it comes to really the way we think about modeling. You have, a lot of people say you got to run the physics ones because the AI is based on it, but there's people experimenting with non-physics. They got a good. It's pretty interesting how good they do. So we'll have to really think about supercomputing in the future. And by the way, am I allowed to do this? I'm going to do it anyway. I on the streets right now is we're going to hire the new director of our environmental modeling center. So a little advertisement if you're listening. You like modeling, you like AI, you want to work for a super amazing person like me. So there's all sorts of things so we're recruiting, have somebody really special to lead the modeling for this country. Seriously, if you're a university out listening to this is one of the most important times, the most important jobs that I hire. Think about it, to run our modeling systems of the future, to think about data assimilation. We don't use all the satellite data. We have no way to put all the data into our models because we can't assimilate all the data, right? So we got to redo to say data assimilation. It'll be done in 2028, by the way. We're going to have brand new data assimilation packages by 2028. We can take all this new data in the models. We need somebody special to run that center. So just a little plug to look at in USA Jobs and put in for it. I'm a good person to work for. I'm a great time.
We know a guy. We know a guy, Ken.
Terminator.
And Ken, the Hurricane Center did such a great job with Francine on the track again. I mean, they were within miles, 30 hours out, whatever. Talk about that and how the models have performed this hurricane season so far.
Yeah, the models have done a great job. And I think, it's again, I do want to bet to another topic if I'm allowed to with the new cone. So I think we haven't, the models are really performing well, but the cost that you have on the new cone, definitely interested in that because we remember that was the first hurricane that debuted the new cone. So I think so far the feedback that I got from emergency management has been very positive. I think that's a great thing. So the models are doing well, but at the same time, couple that the new cone and see those impacts outside the cone. We really did well on that storm.
Yeah, what took us so long to come up with that, Ken? That was a brilliant idea.
They had to want me to leave. I don't know. I don't know what happened. We talked about that, and then the crew made it happen. We dreamed about that. I think what happened. You know, it's interesting looking back at it. You know, we had a lot of plans for cone. We had a lot of plans when I went to the Hurricane Center, and there's some things that happened while I was there. The busiest season on record, COVID. I got slammed by hurricanes while I was there. So excuses. Now that we're on this side of that other side, we're really trying to focus on some services. So I just up the whole group, and it's WPC to see how they depict the rainfall. We're doing a great job depicting some of these heavy rainfall events. There's going to be some outliers there, but that's be interesting. And even going back to AI, the conversation here, you know, AI and probabilistic information is still going to be a challenge going forward. How do you forecast for record events? How do you forecast when these rainfall events exceed anything that's ever happened? It's hard for the human to do that. It's going to be hard for AI to do that. So we got some big challenges being able to forecast the unprecedented.
Well, this weekend here was amazing. You know, when we saw QPFs come out on Thursday that were in the 5 to 8 inch range, you were like, yeah, that's not going to happen. And boom, I've got 4.85 inches in my rain gauge since Thursday here. So yeah, you know, it happened.
Exactly. Yeah.
Hey, Ken, 20 years ago today was Hurricane Ivan. Where were you in 04?
Birmingham. So I remember down to Clanton at the city of go there to get a briefing. I remember doing briefings over 800 megahertz in Alabama, doing all those briefings for Ivan. So yeah, I was there.
Tell me about the greatest improvements in 20 years from Hurricane Ivan to today in terms of hurricane forecasting, risk communication, the whole warning process. It's so much better today.
Let me piggyback on that and ask about beer convection from same point.
I think it's absolutely staggering how we've gotten better at communicating the impacts over just the science forecast. I think it's absolutely a social science breakthrough that we focused on. Okay, here's where the hurricane is, but you're going to have these impacts outside the cone. We have done, and same with severe weather. We're talking about, you know, the early warning. We're talking about the forecasting data, but the forecasting's better, right? I absolutely look at the modeling's better. The statistics are all there that the forecast is simply better. I think there's public understanding better now than ever. It's not perfect. We have work to do, right? But there's better understanding now than ever because we all of us, the media, emergency management, the weather service, everybody has come together to talk more about the impacts. And I think because of social media, I mean, what were we doing in social media back for Ivan? I mean, you know, there was probably a little bit here and there. Were you MySpace? Who was MySpacing? I don't know what we were doing.
Say, what was social media?
We didn't even have a blog.
CompuServe, CompuServe and Prodigy. Nobody remembers CompuServe and Prodigy.
Yeah, I was.
Oh yeah, I still remember my password, James.
I was dittoing information about pickup and pull up to try to get confirmation the cat were the safest in the field. So I mean, if you think about it, ability to communicate in ways we never had before impacts, right? And you look at social media, not everything on social media. We got to look at the sources. We got to look at what's real, but the amount of information the public gets is unbelievable compared to then, right? We talk about those impacts better than ever, and I think there's better understanding than ever on those impacts. It's a miracle done. And you think about presence in emergency operations centers. Why the heck was I driving in 50-mile-an-hour wind seriously from Shelby County to Clanton to give a brief? Why the heck did I have somebody there deployed? Because we didn't do it back then like we do now. We'd have somebody at EOC face to face saying, "Hey, Governor, this is what's going to do. Hey, EM Director, this is what's going to do." That is a massive breakthrough, and we're going to do that so much more in the transformation of our agency.
I want to welcome, by the way, we've had Greg Stump come and join us. He's sort of the Ron OG over here. And I want to welcome you to also chat with Ken. Do you have any questions?
Do I have any questions? Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about community-centric warnings or where that's evolving to? Thoughts up at headquarters.
So what we're trying to do is you think about getting services out equitably. Not everybody is understanding our information, so it could be language barriers. So we've heard today quite a bit. Creasy and Negron is working so hard to be able to take AI and look at language translation. We have Spanish done. We're working on Chinese. By the way, that's the third most spoken language in this country, right? So we're looking at Vietnamese and gone from there. So it's looking at these key district warnings to make sure people have a chance of understand this. So that's one part of it. The other part is we're designing our agency to be in these communities. We literally are going to be in these emergent operating centers. We're literally going to have an understanding of these communities with people that look like that community. And this is just
That's
talk,
great.
by the way. This is just talk because in Alaska, we have some serious retention issues, and Alaska keeping people up there is hard, right? And there's a lot of native Alaskans, if they could work for the Weather Service, they would stay there because that's home. So partner with the University of Alaska Fairbanks. They have a new MET program. The first graduating class is coming soon. We're training locals to get MET degrees, and we're going to expand hydrology and electronics. We're going to hire them at school. We're going to get them home to work there, and I'm going to retain them because they're home. And we're going to give the time off if commitments with family and if it's to do fishing, so be it. Give them time off.
Yeah.
Right. So we're doing this completely different. So we want to get people communities, and you have to look. We're all guilty of this stuff. I look back at my 10 years, my 15 years total in New Orleans, and you look at the communities that we didn't go to. What were we doing? I would go give talks as an MIC to a gated community.
Because that was easier.
It was easier, and
It's
they
the
were
people who answered you.
the ones that requested.
That's right.
We weren't going to some of these communities that needed us the
But
most.
you looked and sounded like them.
Guilty as charged.
Mhm.
It's just a natural human thing. So you think about it. That's not that's not the community that needed me. They need me in the Ninth Ward. They need me going down there. They need people that look like these communities to be in these communities, to be able to build that trust in these communities to get them to listen, right? That's a huge thing. And if it could be, there's parts kind of that they trust government. Do they trust the church? Let's get the information to the church so that we can disseminate the information. It's Detroit's already doing it. They're doing some of these things. The St. Louis WFO is doing this. You probably have more information than I do on it. We
just talked with Kevin Deitsch from St. Louis about this topic, so great plug.
And we found how important the church is in that emergent network during the Mayfield.
How about tribal communities?
Same
out
thing.
west?
So,
Yeah.
so what we're doing is expanding that to go to the tribal community. It's a great event. I was in yesterday. We did it. It's running 2 days ago, Saturday.
You need a cookie.
Where is he? Where is
Bill,
Ken?
Bill,
The sugar cookie.
Bill, I don't know where I am. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who you all are.
Where am I?
So Saturday, the Bismarck office is incredible. They got every county storm ready, and 2 tribe, and a technical college storm ready. I got to talk to them. I met with some of the members, and we were talking about this stuff. They would love to work with us and getting members degrees and then work to put AWIPS to cloud, AWIPS be in the community. They're trusted. They're a member of that tribe. Why don't we do that? It's not insurmountable. That's the kind of stuff. That's community centric.
Yeah.
It's long game though.
It is.
It is. And what I love about it as a social, but also just geographer, you're pulling from the local populations is so important because they represent and are already socially close to those populations. It'll be easier for them to get to community and to know how to address their needs. You think fundamentally differently when you're from a different culture, from a different background. So what you're talking about, I think, is incredible. Curious Greg, you have developed a number of technologies that we consider part of building more community-centered paradigm.
Yes.
Is that will answer your question?
A little, yes. As you may or not know, we've been developing this threat motion project for quite a while now, and that we're hoping threats to provide is something that's a little more specific, not just warning information for half cast issue right now. There's a bunch of different negative problems with that. but with in motion, the way we design the system, we should be the better job at pinpointing at each specific location what threats are. If there's a lot of threat training storms, or a supercell with a hail and a tornado threat, being able to pinpoint exactly when the threats are going to affect those locations, or not exactly, but even a range of probabilities, a range of times based on motion uncertainties. If there's multiple threats, give them one message, tell them there's two threats. Threat's going to hit you at this time, but there's another threat coming 20 minutes after that kind of thing. So, and all the all clear situation, which we don't really do that great of a job at the moment. With threat motion, I think we can really bring that up a notch. And that's something like Laura Myers, when we did some of her weather and society research herself. That's the main thing that the folks she talked to wanted, is more specificity in time of when these hazards are going to affect and when these hazards will be cleared out. So.
And I hear your thoughts. I think about coupling that with on forecast. I think about
Yes.
the probabilities. And I don't know what please don't quote me on this, but somebody tell me, I haven't researched it, but a significant amount of the fatalities, like over 50% were in manufactured housing. Okay. So with that in mind, you think about probability, you think about warning forecasting. I think most, I've asked emergency managers, what would you do if I give you low probability, 5% chance of a tornado an hour now? Because we've always shied away from that. It's like, don't use a warning. People are going to get out of their closet. They don't want to watch. That's a of the research. But what if we had a mobile home community that, like, a moderate situation? It's tough to do on just random pops, right?
Yeah.
Like a coastal type of thing. If you could do that, I've asked it. Yeah, guess what they said? I thought it was interesting. They said, Ken, you know what? I try to.
Yeah.
Whoa, what'd you say? We had kind of information. We'd probably try to get them out of as many as we could.
And providing timing information. So if you give somebody a 60-minute lead time, let them know in the next 60 minutes, they're going to be affected by the hazard. Otherwise, they're going to sit around and wait. And
That's
when is it
right.
going to hit?
And that's
So-
the all clear you mentioned. It can't be overstated. We did our quad state tornado study. We went to a monastery that was serving as a nursing home. So they were a regional hub so they had all kinds of old people who were themselves a vulnerable population, and just had to put them in hallways. And they were in a place that wasn't very well served by communication media, so they fell in those cracks, and they were listening to weather radio. They were trying to understand, is the threat over? And they just had to sit there.
Yeah.
In those hallways. And we can do so much better, so easily conceptually. The technology, you're working it all out.
Yeah.
But that can make such a big difference. It's not just minding when the threat starts. We focus on that so much, whether it's helping people to know when it all has ended and we're anticipating when it will end. That's huge.
And important for first response too, to know
Yes.
that the threat is cleared. We go out and start serving our community, helping out the affected. So
I have to mention this too, as the service tries to go to the cloud. One of the impacts with AWS in the cloud, we get radar in the cloud. We're going to get the observations in the cloud. The other thing that we're going to do is radio in the cloud. I would love to have a conversation at some point. We've been talking to different companies what it would look like. If you have all the broadcast of the radio in the cloud, how do we get that people we've never had before? Take it in. Do we think about an app? Do we think about via satellite? We have an opportunity to reach this information to people like we've never been able to before the old days, without having maybe depend on a transmitter or a tower.
I'm gonna put you on the spot. You just said, do we think about an app?
Yeah.
Oh, we all
Is the
heard
weather
it.
service thinking about an app?
All ears perked up.
Whoop,
Heads
whoop,
all
whoop.
just lit up.
So look, if you could get life-saving information out, whether we could do it from a website or we can have all sorts of different apps take that information. I don't care where it comes from, right? If you think about the ability to be able to get those pockets of information when you're all clears, we can send all clear out messages to phones. See,
Yep.
You got to think of the dissemination of the stuff and the direction that we're going. We might be able to do some of that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
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 Well, that's exciting, I think, for
Very
everyone to
exciting.
hear.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, I avoided that question the best that I can. Thank you very much. The redirect of the year. I
Director redirecting.
Well, I've been enjoying, by the way, all of Ken's staff are over behind us and they're just like sort of staring at us like, how long are you going to take him for?
They're
And we're going
fun.
to take you as long as you are happy being here because this is fun.
They keep flexing and popping their knuckles. I'm getting a little nervous.
At least it's not like in Kansas City where the restaurant closed behind us and we didn't even know it.
That happened. That actually happened.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. Well, Ken, was there anything else that is burning in your heart that we haven't asked you about that you would love for, there's the weather geek community, but we reach a whole lot of American like not all on the inside of what's going on in weather infrastructure. What do you want people to know?
We are really trying to the infrastructure agency, really trying to make the cloud we have a brand new website coming. So I beg everybody to have patience with us. I'm going to break a lot of stuff as we put this new website together because it's a 1990s website. We've built it maybe for ourselves. I don't know. Please don't. Oh my God, all the emails I'm going to get later. Look,
This is great.
yeah. So
All the quotes.
Yeah. So we really are trying to make it lighter, make it faster, involve social science, what really needs to be on there. We need to build a website that's for the public and not for necessarily just for the meteorologists. Okay. So we're really going to do that. We are the first time in the Department of Commerce ever we were granted a technology modernization fund. Why is this important? Because we put in for it and we got a grant to be able to redo the website, $12 million, and we have to pay half of it back. So we're thinking creative, kind of like Slack, right? If we would have done NWS Chat on our own, it probably would have took 3 years. We partnered with Slack and got it done in 10 months. You see, we're thinking differently. So we're really looking at a new website. We're working with a company, working with GSA. We're all coming together. New website on the way.
It's not GeoCities, is it?
No. So anyway,
That might be better.
Exciting, right? So you think about that. We're really excited to be able to do that. And if you think about this agency, we're going to be starting some pilot projects across the country, Alabama, Texas, other places. We're going to look at what we're going to do and how to be able to redistribute the workforce places with Coast Guard. We're looking at reaching our region boundaries to match. Why are we affiliated our boundaries on the ones that are on it, right? So we're looking at the FEMA boundaries and we're actually getting meteorologists eye to eye. We've already got somebody in the White House. We already have a service meteorologist in the White House because if you don't do that, Google the weather. We want them Googling the weather. We want them listening to the taxpayers have already paid for this, right? So we've got somebody there. We're going to be hiring these places. It's going to be different. We got to figure out how to keep the camaraderie when we're spread out all over the place. How do you a consistent message, right? So we have some of those type of things that we have to really work out. So we are going to transform this agency. It's really big, new website, community-centric type information using every tool that we're going to get to be able to do this. I think the country's going to benefit from this. I think it's going to be rewarding for our workforce. Look, came in 1990, I almost left in the first 2 weeks. There was the system AFOS back then. There's this AFOS system where you push a button, it doesn't work. It's this beast. It kept you awake though. A lot of
kept you warm.
It kept you warm. I don't know what it did for my innards long term, but let me tell you something. It kept you warm. It's amazing. So look, half of it didn't work. And I remember James, I was working at WCBI at graduate school at Mississippi State. So I go to New Orleans in this first job and I'm like, weather radio. Hi, everybody. This is Ken Graham, National Weather Service, New Orleans. Here's your forecast. And then the person training me, his finger came really close to my nose and pushes stop. And he goes, "You can't talk like that as a federal employee." What is that? What is that? And you go back to this. I go back to a midnight. I'll tell you, it doesn't matter. It's all good.
Just
among friends. So I work with two individuals that have the same name. And they had interesting qualities back then. This was 94. One of them was probably about 5 inches taller than I am. It got me about 150 pounds. And listen, good. Okay, one. The other one was the same name that was very slow, spoke slow, and every one of them maybe doze off on a shift. One time he dozed off in the chair when it hit the ceiling tiles. We spent about an hour putting those ceiling tiles back up ceiling, I'll tell you. So you think about the situation back then, almost left, and this goes into the future of the Weather Service. We had a water spout that was headed for Plaquemines Parish. And I went to the one person and said, "Hey, I'm looking at this radar, and I think we got to hook this water spout's heading for Plaquemines Parish." He goes, "He had a lunchbox this, by the way. Is this on camera? Can everybody see my hand?" He had a lunchbox this big, right? So, well, I'm not trained on this newfangled 88D thing. Why don't you go put out a warning? I said, I've only been there 2 months. So I went back in operations, took up the other guy, said, "Hey, we got this going on." He goes, "All right, let's go look at it." We walk over. He goes, "You tell me what to type, and I'll type it." I said, "Okay, this sounds like a deal." I said, "Water spout headed for Plaquemines Parish. Water Plaquemines with a Q or a G."
Oh
my goodness.
Did you hear it on air?
Are you hearing the incessant pounding on the table? It's really missing something if you're not hearing it.
That's a backspace.
Yeah.
Back. Right?
There you go.
Subwoofers really go off.
I don't know your speakers. You listen to this program at your own risk. So listen, and then I said, get out of the way. I'll type. Back then, the bearings on the seats were brand new. So when I pushed it, he flew operations in this chair, ended up hitting a table and came to a rest. It was fine.
Okay, I thought we were going to get an OSHA violation of some kind out of this. All right.
We got the warning out. So the next day I was called into the meteorologist in charge office, and he says, "Ken, is it true that you rolled him across operations?" And I like the situation. And he says, "Well, I don't think he's ever moved that fast in his life. Don't ever do it again." So the point is, the culture, the way things were almost left. So I'm making an argument the next generation that's coming into the Weather Service, they want a different job, right? They don't want to just edit the grids. They're really looking at the job satisfaction to be an eye to eye. They're looking at the job satisfaction of getting that instant gratification of what matters. That's what we're building. I did it in 1994. I argue some of the next generations coming in, some of the same feelings, and I'm going to change it because I want to retain them, and that's how the agency has to survive.
Yeah, I see parallels with research with church. Why do people want to go to church? To make a difference, to feel like they're making a difference. That's fulfillment. And people that work in church, it's in the heart, like what you're showing. But if it's in your heart,
it's hard. Yeah, and that's what we have to build, and that's how we're going to retain the next generation. Back to the we have to build that type of agency. That's what they want, and that's what we're going to. We hid away from decisions, right? The old saying was, "Well, we gave them the information. It's up to them what they decide." No, we're a lot of those decision makers. You don't think what I say or my body language or what I say influences that decision? Oh, yeah, it does. Yeah, and you go back to Hurricane Dorian, and I remember getting a call from the governor. I'll never forget it the rest of my life. He goes, "Ken, you sure?" The governor, "Yeah, I'm sure. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to be next with the news conference. If it works out, you got a great win." What am I talking about? Hurricane Dorian we were so caught in the forecast that 3 million people did not evacuate.
Mm-hmm.
Not. So if you're staring at a Cat 5 right off the coast of Florida, yeah, you'll be done. There wasn't much sleep going on that time, but there was trust in that forecast. There was trust in what we were doing, and as a result, that big decision was made. You talk about looking back at that and going, wow, right? Like that. There was a lot of lives saved by never evacuating that event.
That's right. Yep. All right, folks on our screens, do you have any more questions for Ken?
Anybody want to go out to eat? What are we doing next?
Yeah. Time to start the pub crawl.
The important question.
Yeah, well, you guys are awesome. I just want to commend you for what you're doing. This show, what you do in the community. I've learned definitely this last 2 years, it's the whole community to make this happen. We can't do it alone. It's the support that you give our agency. It's the support for the future. I can't state enough part of it. And emergency managers, you know, Alabama, I'm as close to those emergency managers as I was back. It's just, it's a family, a friendship. It's amazing how we work together. So I just give you all what you do. You're really making a difference. So I just appreciate this whole show and appreciate you all.
We
Well,
appreciate
thanks to you, Ken, for what you've done for the Weather Service and the Weather Enterprise. It's been good. And thanks to all of our crew in Dallas-Fort Worth. Real quick,
Yeah.
highlights of the NWA so far. What are the highlights so far?
Oh yeah. We forestalled the AI conversation where there were some sort of dark moments in some of that.
I missed it.
Oh, you know, it might be better for your
Just go home and watch
watching.
Terminator.
Yeah. So hey, for a positive spin, Greg, what do you feel day one here at the
Well,
conference?
first of all, the RON, which we're at right now, the Research Operations Nexus, we're in the 9th year of that now. Started in 2015, and it has absolutely blossomed. And I think I don't know if we break last year's record. We 125, I think, last year, if I recall correctly. But still, very, very great turnout tonight. Major kudos, of course, to Randy and Elisa, who have taken over from me about 4 years ago. This event. Great getting the options folks and the researchers folks talking, making connections for both R2O and O2R. That's research to operations and operations to research. And that's so far, that's been my highlight. Of course, this morning, I talked about threats in motion in my showcase. We were using AWIPS in the cloud to do the demonstration. Got a lot of folks over on the software and playing around, so that's getting a lot of, so very happy about that as well. So,
Yay. Oh, that's wonderful. When you, I don't know if you were involved in playing some of them or even just in the know in the conversations, were any particular topic, area or topics that chose this year for any particular reason? Or
no,
is it sort of a normal?
I was actually not involved in the planning this year. I just volunteered to facilitate. I said when I step off the podium for the run, I'll still be involved, but just as a facilitator. So
Yeah, so modeling that you don't have to do everything. You can let things go.
yeah, that's exactly what I did. So
How does that feel?
liberating. So it's a lot of work. So
Yeah, it's great. I love just to give the audience a sense. The discussions, people are at tables just energized, and they're having. You can solve from the body language. Again, the body language. People lean in and listening to each other, and important things are being discussed.
Yep.
And I think that's what I love so much about the RON is people most of our lives we live in whatever our organization silo is, and coming here and focusing on the top that confront us and having the ability to hear from other people, it shapes that thinking. One of the things that we were talking about, there was a session this morning called What If? And it was asking us, are we doing the right things? Are you going to be experts? And people were talking about being burned. They were talking about having to be everything to everybody. And it really occurred to so many people that we needed to have more space to think about the big picture together, because it's so easy to miss it, especially since we're navigating a world where everything is changing under our feet.
Yeah.
We have to be there for each other, and we have to do this together. That's been a really big theme I've heard throughout the day.
And what do you notice too that makes me proud of this and so happy? Look at the young people in here. I think it's absolutely amazing to see the
That's
youth,
true.
the students, the
lots
young
of students at this
I
run.
love
Yep.
that. That's amazing.
Everyone,
A lot of that.
I say things like that, and it's happening.
The other bonus we had this year, a lot of broadcasters are here, and traditionally the broadcast would be at the same time as Don. Yeah. And the first time it's not. So
yeah, and they're a vital part of this conversation. So one of the things that we did yesterday, we had a session on space weather that responded to requests from broadcasters last year. We had a national center engagement, sort of IWT-like thing where the national centers, since they don't get to do the local one, but they still connect and be approachable with partners. that was tremendous. And I had broadcasters who said, you know what, I'd love to hear more about space weather. I know almost nothing of it. And so we thought, I looked for here at, what is the forecast system for this and where would people have questions? And I had the WCM, the service program officer, go through and just talk about what are your products and what can you have positive lead time on? What do you do when? Just give that. They don't need the 101 on the sun and scales and go beyond that. Go and talk to the system. And everyone loved it because the task before us is really to help be on the same page. And we open the door to broadcasters to say, what can we do to help you? And oh my gosh, the questions that we got just to open the door. So it's like the RON is a concept,
Yeah.
but it's a very intentional listening exercise across the lines. And that's how we're going to do this. I think I freed them. I had people tell me that they felt free to ask questions that, they thought might be stupid. We're all afraid to look stupid to each other. And I was happy to tell people, this is hard. It's not something you're trained in. It's not something almost any of us are trained in. There's value in talking.
Yeah.
We need a lot of to educate everybody that unlike a hurricane that you see the you see the damage and it's a space weather, everybody's at the aurora really happened. We get that big back in May and even down in Alabama, everybody's aurora. Reality is our watch and warning lead time prevented hundreds, if no billions of dollars worth of damage. Satellites turn, right? Satellites we know about, satellites we don't know about. Everything turns. Airlines couldn't fly over the pole and further south. The power companies adjust to be able to absorb that energy. The lines across the oceans, all this stuff adjusted, and we didn't have a lot of impact. There's actually a national worldwide shortage of transformers in the chain, the supply chain. So what if we had the impact that people be out of power for a long time? So we need to tell the story that just because it didn't happen, we did that at the service with the warnings and worldwide collaboration. Slack is used worldwide. The Australians, UK, everybody's on Slack to talk about keeping us on the same page with space weather. So just a little plug to say, you think the support of those folks, their job is to make sure there's no damage, but then it's hard to explain what a good job we did because it's like, oh, what is the false alarm? No, there's no false alarms and stuff. Prevented the damage.
Yes.
Fascinating.
Oh, and the stakes couldn't be higher. It's such a special area to work in part because there's so much there that they can be helped by, and they've needed that help. Something that is really interesting is we're putting a lot of infrastructure in low Earth orbit now. CubeSats, all these CubeSat, networks. We're putting a lot of our, internet infrastructure. There's some countries now where that's going to they have Starlink.
Yeah.
And Starlink lost a whole bunch of their CubeSats in what was actually a G3 event, but it was an extended one that had the effect of increasing RAP on the satellites, pulling them down. Those owners operators didn't even know that was possible. Like this is the level of not weather resiliency that we're dealing with for people making huge investments in lower orbit. They're learning, and it's this incredible time to be evolving this system, but we've got to do it. And I think general public is going to start noticing these things. We're getting high precision mag that's driven by GPS lights. In the May event, there were tractors that were going, their typical air tolerance is an inch or so. They were going 12 feet off. And they didn't know why. Like, why is the tractor doing this? And something that Sean, the service program coordinator for C, that he pointed out was, if we could get that to you as broadcasters early, you're the people that the farmers are listening to on a day-to-day basis. If you space weather smart, you could let them know, hey, actually, there's this interference that's expected. And you give them some lead time. They could not run their tractor and not lose all that seed, not have to go replow stuff. Like there's a huge cost sink to these things. We're going to start feeling that, and we're going to feel it more and more and more. And I know that it's like, what is space weather? Why should we care? But I think it is increasingly critical, increasingly. And I'm glad that everything's evolving in that area.
A proper center on the GOES-U, the compact gravity, subsea now, these flares coming off in there, answer the compact photograph. The first one, they're going to go operational in the world. We had to borrow, look at it. You barely get it. You're lucky to get it. Now we'll have it all the time. It'll pick out the brightness of the sun, so you can really study the corona of the sun to be able to really see layers like never before. So if you can find those earlier, you get better lead time on some of those events.
Awesome stuff, guys. I think did they turn the lights down on us?
Here we go. It's like the restaurant.
I'll come every time I'm on their show. I close the place.
Turn out the lights. The party's over.
It's always happening to me.
Yeah. Well, listen, everybody, thank y'all so much. This was a great show. We learned a lot.
Yes,
it looks like it's a great event, and we thank all of you for your time. It was great.
Great job, James and Kim. Thank y'all.
Absolutely. We'll hand it back over to you guys to close the show out, I think, and then I think we're going to be kicked out of here.
Yep. All right. Y'all have a good session. We'll take a break. We've got Tony Rice, the Astronomy Report. We've got Jen's This Week in Tornado History. We'll have an email, picks of the week, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your Astronomy Outlook.
The moon will pass through the Earth's shadow tomorrow night, creating a partial lunar eclipse. This won't be as spectacular as a total lunar eclipse, but it's still worth stepping outside to see. Lunar eclipses occur as the moon passes through the Earth's shadow. This is going to be a slight one, with only the sliver of the upper left of the moon changing color as the moon passes through the Earth's umbral shadow, just grazing it. The show begins around 10:12 p.m. Eastern and is visible anywhere that the moon is in the sky. Best viewing will be between about 10:30 and 11 p.m. Eastern. That's going to be around 7:30 Pacific on the West Coast, around moonrise, so it's going to be a little more challenging to see there. WeatherBrains listeners west of there, including Hawaii and Alaska, your eclipse experience will be limited to the penumbral portion of the eclipse, that lighter part of the shadow that surrounds the umbra that starts around 90 minutes earlier and finishes about 90 minutes after the umbral eclipse. Speaking of the West Coast, wildfires in California, Oregon, and Idaho could actually enhance the colors of this eclipse. You see, smoke particles in the air cause those shorter wavelengths of light to scatter, leaving the longer, redder ones to pass through and make it to the moon's surface. Think of it this way. It's the other end of that Rayleigh scattering effect that gives us the blue sky. The next lunar eclipses visible from the U.S. will both be total as the moon passes completely through the Earth's umbral shadow that time, producing those oranges and red colors that we know and love. This will be on March 13th, 2025 and March 3rd, 2026. Speaking of 2026, there will be a solar eclipse that will be most visible as a partial eclipse in the northeastern U.S. on August 12th, 2026. This time it's Greenland and Spain that get to enjoy totality. That's your Astronomy Outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
This week in tornado history, September 19th, 1947. A hurricane-spawned tornado struck Apalachicola, Florida on this day. Per the Apalachicola Times, it came in just after midnight. 27 homes were destroyed, with 31 other homes partially destroyed or damaged within the city limits. Thomas Grzoulis denoted a 3-mile path, and he assigned this twister an F3 rating. 100 people were injured and 2 were killed. A 10-year-old African-American girl, Nancy Lou Banks, was one of the casualties. Per the Apalachicola Times, she was, quote, blown from the hands of her mother and received a crushed face from flying debris. In the December 1947 Monthly Weather Review, a preliminary report on tornadoes of the year was given. 161 tornadoes were reported that year, 25 in the state of Florida, and this one on September 19th was considered, quote, most disastrous. We have a detailed summary about this event on our website at tornadotalk.com. Check out all our summaries and our membership plans as well.
Time now to dig into the email inbox and just maybe some things in there this week.
And there is. We have our email of the week comes from Wade Crawford. Wade, thank you for writing. He is a first-time listener and a Casey native, and he really enjoyed the show last week to hear from Luke. And he had 2 questions for us. I'm going to go to the second question. Is after Luke's book suggestion of Divine Wind by Dr. Emanuel, I do want to expand my library with weather literature. What is your favorite book on severe weather science and history? One that is a good first step into really understanding meteorology as a science. And I know that Bill has a couple of suggestions, but I have to mention this one or the green one if you want to learn about tornado history.
That was the one I was gonna pick.
Yeah, this is it. for all tornadoes. Thomas Gruzoulis cannot wait for the second book, which should come out in a couple of years. But of course, his big green book is what everybody had originally, but now he's got the blue books coming out. So for tornado history, I would go that route, Wade. And I know Bill has some suggestions.
Yeah, Jen, since I know the writer wanted to know about severe weather, certainly, Ludlam's Early American Tornadoes is up there for me. But just recently, James Adelite mentioned a book, and I know folks who took meteorology in school, probably a lot of them, this is not going to be a new thing to them, but for folks who didn't, study meteorology formally, Wallace and Hobbs, Atmospheric Science, I was able to pick up the second edition economically on Amazon, I think. That thing is amazing with the formulas and the detail. And I would highly recommend that. I was holding that in reserve tonight because I thought James A. might say that if he was on the show. A little simpler book, not really simple in any way, but maybe not as complex, not as much math, is Aaron's Meteorology Today. These are my two favorites right here, for sure. I said the Early American series, that's important. And I always loved the AMS weather book. That is a very good, very simple explainer about a lot of things, Jen. And so I would pick that up too. And I went all through my little library back here today. There's gazillion great books on weather. You can hardly go wrong anywhere. But those are just some good compendiums that kind of caught my eye as I went through the stacks today.
Awesome. Thanks, Bill. Yeah, thank you, Wade. And, go back through some of our show notes. I'm sure we've got some books that we've thrown in there for you. And we will, if we think of anything else, we'll throw them out there, of course. But please continue to send your emails to us. Email at weatherbrains.com. Who would you like to see on the show? What do you like? And, throw some of your suggestions our way. We would love to hear it. Back to you, James.
Sitting here, look at my show title suggestions. Number one is, what kind of show is this? Number two, I'm going to break a lot of stuff. I'm going to break a lot of stuff. And number three, it isn't GeoCities, is it? There's some great show titles. And let me just say, for those that are watching on YouTube Live, I know that the audio is a little iffy coming out of Dallas-Fort Worth. Our expert sound producer, JP, will be working on it, and the audio version should be a lot cleaner. So if you want to go back and listen again and probably have a better chance of hearing everything, go to the audio version that should be out at some point tomorrow morning, and he's good about cleaning that up. But anyway, it was great having all those guests out in Dallas-Fort Worth. But let's go right to picks of the week because we've been going so long here. Mine, it's a simple video today from Dauphin Island, Alabama, which is a barrier island south of Mobile County, and they had a whopper of a water spout today. And I think I'm the only human on the planet that's never seen a water spout in person with my eyes.
I haven't.
Well, there's two of us. Okay, there's two of us.
I about drove off the Navarre Bridge when I saw one. I nearly stopped traffic because I was like, that is a water spout.
It's going to happen to me one day, maybe before I die. But anyway, there was a big one down there today. So that'll be my pick of the week. All right, Jen, what you got?
So my pick of the week actually comes from an emailer. Thank you so much, Clay Barnett. You sent an article from ESPN.com about severe weather delays. And I just happened to look at the front picture, and it was actually the big sign at the West Virginia Penn State games to start the season. And you highlighted this in your email too, that the game is suspended due to severe weather. And it gave you the suggestions of where you could seek shelter, which was on the concourse, restrooms, indoor practice facility, or return to your vehicle. Now, that's a little disheartening I don't think we need to be going to our vehicle, especially when the storms that rolled through for that particular game was just flooding rains and the lightning was just awful. So the whole article, though, was really focused in on the players and what they have to go through and how do you plan this. And really, it does highlight some big concerns when you have a huge group of people coming together and you have severe weather happening. Where do they go? and how do you get them there, and how do you get them there safely, and how do you, especially like the players and what have you, how do they take care of themselves during the game and waiting. So that was kind of the whole article. So that's my pick of the week.
Indeed. And these will be up on weatherbrains.com. Bill Murray, go.
Yeah, James, we were talking about, because I worry to pieces, about the AMOC shutting off and, that introducing in, a little ice age. And we were talking about that on the show last week. Dr. Neil Jacobs was talking about it. I found the article in Wired magazine about the hole in the map of the world, and it really goes into depth about this process. And so it's a fascinating read, and you can get it online very easily. So I included the link as my pick of the week, and we're going to have a show about that at the end of October. If everything goes well, I'm really excited. Next week, we'll be previewing the Central Indiana Severe Weather Symposium. We're going to talk to YouTube meteorologist Mitch West on the 30th. Mike Seidel from Fox Weather is going to join us on October 7th. Our old friend Sean Potter, had been talking a long time ago about, cracking the old Weather Bureau code. They had that amazing code in the late 1800s and early 1900s, how they transmitted observations. And we're even going to come up with a game for the panelists to play for that night. So put your thinking caps on, panelists. That'll be on October 14th. I don't know if the mayor took me very seriously the other day, James, but I asked Tuscaloosa Mayor Walt Maddox to be on the show on the 21st. Maybe you can put in a good word for me there and see if he'll join us at a time when we can talk about the amazing things he's done in his leadership post the big tornado there in 2011. And we're just actively adding guests all the way through the third and fourth quarter. I guess now we're in the fourth quarter almost for WeatherBrains. And that show 1000 is lurking just around the corner. So we'll have to see if Mr. Morgerman was serious about letting us use his house, if that's the most practical place for us to do it, or if there's some other place. James, we better get serious about this thing because it's going to be on us before we know it.
What we need to do is to nominate somebody that's not here to be in charge of it. So immediately we think of Kimmel. He's not here. Neil, he's not here. Rick Smith, he's not here. So that's what you do. You railroad the job to somebody that's not here. So put them in charge of the Big Show 1000. But no, if you would tell me that we're still doing this show in 2024, I'd say no way. No way.
I don't know.
We started this.
I think I would have put a pretty high probability given your persistence, James, that we probably will still be doing it in 2044. So I had no doubt.
Come on. We're just getting started. I mean, come on now. We're just getting started here. It's like but no, we more from this little 30-minute tightly produced broadcast quality show with David Black being the host of this zoo crew that it is. But I like it this way. It's just a free-for-all. And really, we started this, everybody needs a creative outlet. What we do, it's so structured. And it's just an outlet to talk to weather dweebs and geeks and nerds about stuff we like and care about. And anyway, it's been a great ride. So, but having said that,
thank you for coming
got to
up
wrap
with the idea, James. I've had some people tell me that it's the podcast of record for weather, and that's really a big honor.
Yeah, it is, and I think everybody that is somebody has been on the show over over the years since 2006, 18 years, and it's. I look back and we've recorded history here. We really have, and we've talked to some folks that have passed away, and we've had a chance to debrief them and hear from them. So it's been a great ride. But hey, we got to go. WeatherBrains is typically on the air, for those that don't know, every Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. You can watch the video version live on the WeatherBrains YouTube channel, youtube.com/WeatherBrains. But we know that most of you listen. But however, thank you. And if you want to get in touch with us, the email address in the email works good. It's email at weatherbrains.com. Thanks for listening. Have a great week and God bless. All right, y'all.
Thank you
Another
both.
show in the can.
That's
Thank
right. Have a
y'all.
good one.
Everybody, y'all have a good one now.
Bye, Jen. Bye,
Bye-bye.
James.
Bye.